But keeping people happy is the best way to be successful in this business.
Isn't that crazy how those maybe not so good ones stick
Yeah.
with you more?
But, it's always good because you learn from them, right? Become better at what you do.
Some people say we're in sales. I personally don't think we're in sales. It's about taking care of people at the end of the day.
Yeah. What it comes down to is networking, getting to know people, showing that you're willing to do the hard work.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 4 of
Closing time.
with Dave and Joelle. And we have one of my favorite people here with me today. And as he'll tell me, he's known me since I've been this big, the one and only John Mallinger. Welcome to the show, John.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Dave.
So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself prior to starting to sell real estate. No, by the way, John is on the Dave and Company real estate team. So,
Yeah. Prior to being on here, I taught Dave into joining the Guard. So I started working at Morrell's back in the day when I was 18. Actually went to college, and that wasn't for me. So I went to Morrell's, where I started working with Dave's dad. Was probably about the time you were born, I'm guessing.
yep.
And we rode back and forth to work together. And then I got hired full-time in the Guards in 1990. Worked with the drug enforcement people. That was one of the best jobs I ever had. I only left because of promotion and pay, but then went into recruiting in 1997. Recruited in the military for 20 years, where I held a bunch of different positions, such as area supervisor, first sergeant, sergeant major of recruiting. So that was all good and fun stuff. Retired in 2017. Been doing real estate ever since.
So, a little bit about John and his recruiting career. You're the best recruiter in the nation, like multiple years over, right?
Yeah, I had a few times that I led the state in recruiting, and it was easy. I didn't ever consider it a job. I was just meeting people and talking them into having fun with me, just like I did to you, Dave. Talked Dave into joining the Guards with us, but he did the same to me. Talked me into doing real estate. So what goes around comes around.
Yep. When I decided to start the team, the first person that went off in my head, and you were retiring at the perfect time, it's like John Mallinger. Like, we play this game. Not that me and Johnny go to the bar a lot, but we play this game, or out for coffee. But who's gonna know the most people when we go into an establishment? It's a little game we play.
Yes.
Johnny almost always wins. But at the home show, what happened just a few weeks ago?
Dave kicked my butt. I feel like I'm getting old.
It's all right. Johnny knows everybody, and he cares about people and takes care of people.
So we did a funny Meet the Team video 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it was pretty comedic in the sense that we set it around like a 90s sitcom. We actually did it to the Cheers theme song, and it's just Johnny, working on his phone. He was playing a game, actually. You told me that. You were like, I'm not actually working, I'm playing a game. But then you just look at the camera and you smile, and it was like, meet Johnny, and then it's something funny about you, and yours was something like, probably knows your second cousin's ex-girlfriend's mother-in-law, or just like something crazy, but that is so true. Everybody.
Right. So I do believe that. I think as I work with people and I start to know people, I can always connect the dots to where we know somebody in common. And in fact, I got a kid that I'm working with now, said he played football at O'Gorman. My cousin has coached at O'Gorman for many years, and we talked about that. So it was pretty neat.
You're so good at just like connecting with people that way, and you just talk to them and ask them about their lives, what they do they have kids, all of these details, and you're like, oh, you know this person? Oh, do you know this person? And it's always like, oh my gosh, yeah, how do you know them? And usually it's recruiting.
Right. And then it's kind of nice because it gets you into a relaxed mode where you're not focusing on buying a house or selling a house or what's going on, and you get to know them on a personal level. So it's easy to, as things pop up in selling houses, as they always do, it's easy to go into that and talk about it and just give options,
Yeah.
because that's what I am. I'm the mediator.
Right.
So
Well, and it's funny you say that. People just like to get to know you. And even our podcast that we've started, we're starting to get feedback like, oh, we want to work with you guys because you're not just, you're nice, like to have fun, know people, you're not just all, I mean, we are all business, but you know what I mean.
right. But I know what you're saying too, because it isn't right away, boom, 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 you gotta do this, this, this. It's more, hey, tell me about yourself. And then it's easier to help them find what they're looking for, help find what they want, and that fits their description of what they're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's go for a cup of coffee, go for a cocktail, whatever, just go get to know people,
Right,
you know.
right. Which is the fun part of this job,
Absolutely.
because inspections are not fun. Sometimes negotiating is not fun. But
So how did Dave convince you as you were retiring? Because you are in the mindset of, I'm going to be done now. How did he convince you to get into real
well,
estate?
I'll tell you what, I was only 53 when I retired, so I was still young. I had to do something.
What are you, about 80 now? 70?
Just shy of when you're younger than your dad.
Yeah.
Just kidding. If you don't know Dave's dad, he's one of the funniest people I've ever met, and just a great, nice guy. But I didn't need to say that, but I'm gonna.
Love you, Dad, but me and John may have some different opinions on you.
But what made me want to do real estate, which sounded appealing to me, is because we've been to Zig Ziglar training. We've been to all kinds of. I went. One of the boondoggles was to Vegas with our friend of ours, Casey Yost, but was reading body language, so we could tell when a person told us yes, I'm ready to go, I'm do this, or if they're not picking up what you're putting down, crossing their hands, the stuff like that, they're not listening to you. So to get into sales and stuff, yeah, thanks, Dave. To get into sales, it was natural for me. I mean, that's what I've always done.
Yeah.
And I can set my own hours, work my own pace. I'd get tired of nights and weekends, but
So ironically, when I used to live on Opal Lane in Hartford, I sold Johnny the house 3 doors down from me.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy to,
yeah,
he was ready to do it, and he's great at it.
Yeah.
He's my number 2 salesperson on the team, and you're starting to nip at his heels. Big shoes to fill there, Joelle. So I can't believe I'm going to bring this up. I'm only allowing you 3 to 4 minutes to talk about this.
Oh.
Let's talk some baseball. If you get Johnny going on baseball, we'll be here for hours and hours. So first of all, who's your favorite team in baseball?
the Cincinnati Reds.
How are they doing so far this year?
3-3.
Okay, can't complain.
Yeah.
It's early.
So
Yeah.
Johnny, I wish I had his ability. You can name a player, name a stat. Johnny knows it. So,
Not as good as I used to be, but
well, who won the World Series in
I won't remember.
1996?
Oh, yeah. I have no idea.
Okay.
1990 Cincinnati Reds.
We're gonna edit that one out, but I figured you'd be able to. But Johnny knows stats, players, everybody, just like he knows people. Now I gotta ask, tell me my favorite story when you got to throw out an opening pitch. Tell us that story. I love it.
All right, I only got 3 minutes, so I'm gonna get to it really fast. My brother Tony, he lined it up so we could go a Cincinnati Reds game. We were gonna go watch him because we had to go pick up his brother.
You're fine.
He was doing
Slow her down.
he was doing a internship and for the summer, and so way back at Christmas time, he says, "John, let's do a road trip. We'll go watch Cincinnati Reds in Cincinnati." And so I said, "Sure, let's go." Well, turns out they're playing the Minnesota Twins of all teams, and so time comes around about a week before the game. He calls me up and he says, "Hey, you better invite your wife and kids." And I says, "Why would I invite my wife and kids? This is a guy trip." And of course, as it turned out, he says, "Well, you're going to be the honorary team captain." So so I had to turn in my autobiography about being in the military, and then of course all that went well. We got down on the field. My brother Tony's a Yankees fan. Thought he could wear his Yankee stuff down. They said, "No, unless you're wearing Cincinnati Reds, you ain't getting on this field."
Oh, no
So it
kidding.
was nice to see my brother in Cincinnati Reds stuff.
Awesome.
So we get down there and we get on the field and they say, "All right, this crowd's going to really recognize you. So as we're reading your autobiography, please pay attention and wave back and acknowledge that you're here because they're going to be cheering for you." And, I've never been in a stadium of 30,000 people before.
Right.
So it was kind of exciting, I guess. So I walk out there concentrating. Oh, I better wave. And I'm looking up in the crowd and stuff, not paying attention to what's going on behind home plate, which is exactly where I'm heading. With at that time, it was supposed to be the manager, but instead I went out with a pitcher for the Reds, Homer Bailey, because our manager had got kicked out the day before, and he was the guy delivering the lineup card. So I walk out there, and I get out there, and as I'm watching, sure and pretty soon I turn around and look, and here's Paul Molitor stomping out there after me, manager of the Minnesota Twins. He says, "South Dakota, we have a ton of Twins fans in South Dakota." And because I was starstruck, I didn't know what to say. I looked right at him and said, "Yeah, I'm not one of them. And of course, it all got silent for like 20 seconds. The umpires didn't say anything. Homer Bailey's with me. Nobody said anything. And I'm like, okay, what'd I do wrong? And finally, one of the umpires reaches over and sticks his hand out and says, hey, thanks for your service. And then we walked back and I looked at Homer Bailey and I says, he says, hey, you can go in the dugout. You can get autographs from everybody. You can go in to see people. And I said, no. I said, what I'd like is my autograph with you, or an autograph of you and a picture of you. And he says, well, he puts his arm around me. He says, anybody talks to Paul Molitor like that, I'll take my picture with him every day.
That is awesome.
So, yeah, it was the story is Paul Molitor is an intimidating guy and intimidating coach and very intense person. So
That is by far my favorite Johnny Mallinger story. Right?
yeah, that was
Because Paul Molitor is just kind of a rough and tough guy.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I don't know what he's expecting me to say though. I guess I was wearing my Cincinnati Reds stuff.
yeah, fair enough.
So obviously baseball is a big part of your life, and that has transitioned a little bit into softball.
Because I had girls. Trust me, if they could play baseball, they wouldn't have.
So tell us about just the world of softball. What's your involvement right now with your
Yeah,
granddaughters?
you know, I coached both my daughters in softball, and both of them played. Both of them did very good. They won the state numerous times, 5 times actually. And Caitlin was right-handed, but I made her be left-handed because I said if she's going to make it in the major, she's going to be a left-handed pitcher. So she did everything right-handed, but she pitched left-handed. So that was pretty amazing. And she was, believe it or not, in her senior year, they won the state 4 times. She was in Who's in the Crowd in Sports Illustrated.
I remember that.
Yeah, I got it hanging on my garage, in my garage.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, Peyton Manning was on the cover of that. I remember that phone call. That was kind of neat. The guy
Very-
calls me up and says, I got to call Archie Manning and let him know his boy's on in the magazine. I got to call parents with these kids. And I says, Archie Manning? I said, do you mean Peyton Manning? He goes, yeah, he's on the cover. And your daughter's going to be in it too. So
That had to be such a cool phone.
it was. So then I had to buy this plaque for $250. That's what it pretty much led to.
Hey, guess who cut my hair yesterday?
Caitlin.
Caitlin cut my hair
I
yesterday.
didn't know you were with a celebrity, did you? But now I coach my granddaughter's team. They're a 14 under team. And you know what? It's just a lot of fun. But it's a lot different because I don't have near the intensity, that I had with her, with my daughter. So my granddaughter is more like, all right, honey, we'll get him next time. My daughter, it was more like, get your butt out there. We're going to kick some butt.
And guess what? You coaching still, you're meeting more people.
Yep.
So
That's what this job is.
that's all. Making connections. I think I said this on one of our previous shows. It's about customer service and communication.
Yeah.
Some people say we're in sales. I personally don't think we're in sales. It's about taking care of people at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to tell you guys this is one of the neatest things about coaching, Joel, is I was up watching them because they played school ball and somebody else coached them, and I was watching them with one of the grandparents, people my age. And he comes up to me and he says, thank you so much for coaching my daughter, because if it wasn't for you, she wouldn't be playing. And, they're a big basketball family, so that is true. And I guess I really, it makes me feel good to know that I'm teaching somebody else to love the game as much as I love it. So would be the way to put that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there really is. Everybody on our team has their different skill sets, and yours is making connections with people, making them feel so cared about and that they matter and they value. And that is a huge thing.
Right. Right.
I don't know the Dave & Co team without John Mallinger.
Yeah. We were the founding fathers, weren't we, Dave?
We were, and I give John a hard time when it comes to technology. There's a little bit of a struggle there, but he's old school and he's going to work his butt off for it.
I live by the saying that they say in the military, Dave. If they wanted me to know computers, they would make me a computer.
That's fair. That's fair.
So let's get back into real estate for a second. And we just want to hear about some of your experiences. So tell us maybe the funniest thing that has happened to you in real estate, or maybe the weirdest thing that has happened.
Oh, wow. Where do you start on something like that, Joel? There's always, actually, Dave and I were talking yesterday. You could go to any job, do the same thing day after day after day. But one thing about real estate, it's never the same. Everything, there's something different. And every time stuff happens in different ways. But I would probably say, why is it you remember? I put 1,000,000 great people in the National Guard. 1,000,000. I probably put in 5 or 6 bad people. But guess what I get remembered for? Not the 1,000,000 people I put in good, it's the 5 or 6 bad people. Why'd you get that person in? I always say I never put anybody bad in, but, that's what I'm accused of. So when you do houses, you've done 1,000,000 great transactions, but you always remember the tougher ones. And so that's what I'm gonna say is, I have a really good friend that I helped his daughter buy a house in Del Rapids, and, so then her husband, new husband-to-be at the time, picked me as his realtor, sold his house, and we get to closing, and the people say, "No, we don't want the house," and he walked away the day of closing. And, so here I am meeting this guy for the first time thinking, in my mind, thinking I let somebody down and, was it my fault? What could have I done different? But as it went on, we put the house back on the market, sold it within that week, and
Yeah.
it went on and it closed. But so as you ask, what's one of the most memorable things? That's probably the one I remember the most, just because it was the one time that I probably was disappointed in the outcome. Whereas most of the time you're very happy at closings. It's a good time for people and they're happy to get their house and move in. So
Yep.
Isn't that crazy how those maybe not so good ones stick
Yeah.
with you more?
yeah,
They just hit different.
right. But it's always good because you learn from them, right? You become better at what you do, and you try to prevent problems before they happen, especially the day before they're supposed to close, like that one. But
I'll never forget my mom and dad's closing when they sold their house. And he's probably gonna get mad at me for saying this, but he was so angry with Mr. Buyer. And you know how my dad can get, and that's where I'm gonna leave the story, but
can you shut this off so we can talk about that off?
we can tell about it afterwards.
If you don't know this, we love Greg Larson, so we like giving him a bad time. If he's
Oh, yeah.
watching, you'll love it.
He watched them all the other day when we released our first 2.
Uh-oh.
So,
Probably going to cost us soda or two for
a
us.
soda or 2. Soda.
So after how many years in real estate, do you still run into things that you maybe don't know how to approach?
I think you do all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's different. I just had a guy that does not want to use a real estate agent, and he's Mr. Buyer, and I'm representing sellers, and I go right to Dave, say, Dave, how do you want me to handle this? But at the same time, I knew it was a good deal for my clients, um, you know, but I owed him same fiduciary duties as I did them. So that one was different. Then handling the inspection was obviously different because I went in and represented him as an inspection person. Well, actually, I wanted to know from my people, but it was still way different. So, and I just did that one, and I've never done anything like that.
I'm so proud you used the word fiduciaries.
Just don't ask me what it means.
You know what it means.
But I think that brings up a really good point of what are maybe the differences between duties that you owe your clients versus duties that you owe to people who aren't your clients but are maybe involved in the transaction.
Right. I mean, you treat people like you want to be treated. So I mean, that's the way I would put that. So I'm not gonna obviously talk for my clients. I'm going to ask them. I'm going to take everything to them, but at the same time, try to keep everybody happy and keep the transaction together, because by keeping people happy is the best way to be successful in this business. Making other people happy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Does that answer your question or not really?
Absolutely. I think that's spot on. Spot on.
I give him a hard time about technology, but he's going to take care of you. That's a fact.
Yeah. Honestly, that's ever since the day I started recruiting in the guards. You put in friends' kids, you put in, people that you don't know, and you don't treat your friends' kids any better because you learn that you just take care of all of them. In fact, I worked harder to find good people to keep my friends' kids happy in the guards.
I can still remember you coming to my house when I was thinking about the guards. You called me the day before I left for basic training to make sure I was ready to go. You took care of me the whole way.
And speaking of your dad and your mother, but the day you guys got deployed, I remember that being there, and And I was a recruiter, so I was non-deployable, and that I always probably is my biggest regret of being in the military. And I know you say that, you need people to pay people, you need people to do paperwork, you need people to enlist people, and so they're all part of it, even though I didn't get to go over with my friends and spend a year in the desert.
It's not all that it's cracked up.
Right.
Trust me.
I can only imagine. But so that's why it was always so important to me. And I know when I looked at your mom and dad, and I just assured them as best I could that you were going to be all right, that he's with good people and he's got good leadership. And if you ever need anything, you call me. So
Yep.
yeah, that was always good times.
And so, because you two have known each other for so long, this is maybe going to be a little bit fun and funny. Tell me, just both of you, about your dynamic as friends, as coworkers.
I don't know. I think our dynamic is always that way. I mean, trust me, Dave's been mad at me before. I've been mad at him a time or two. But we always can go back to, our roots, and that is we settle down, and we calmly fix it.
Yeah.
Because we both know we're the same personality to a point as far as,
Agreed.
yeah, we get a quick, first get mad, and then as we dig into it, we find out, no, it isn't as bad as we need it
We
to be.
talk through it and then we have a beer afterwards, and it's
Move on.
You guys butt heads like siblings.
Yes, there you go.
that's pretty good.
And it is kind of funny to be a bystander for, because you guys will be so mad at each other and just cussing up a storm about each other. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, all right, Johnny and I are going to go play some vidlot.
Yeah. Push buttons is the key word.
We have a soda.
And have us all.
I came with you to one time, and it was just an experience.
Well, we thought you were going to be good luck, and you weren't. That's why you haven't been asked again.
Yeah, they
After the show today.
never invited me back to push buttons and drink sodas because we lost within.
Bring luck next time, and we'll ask you every time.
Yeah. So
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Johnny, so thankful that you came onto our show today. One, because you are a huge asset to our team. Like I said, I don't know the Dave & Co team without you in it. And I do have to say it is funny because I always call you Johnny, but professionally, I'll have to write John Mallinger. It's just funny how that goes. But two, you hate doing videos in office, so we're appreciative that you came on.
yes, I'm surprised he's here.
But you're a core member. You started the Dave & Co team with Dave, so it was important for us to have you as one of our very first guests. So to wrap up our show, we have to ask, if someone studied your life for a week, what would they say is your secret sauce?
I think Dave's right. That a lot of that we've already talked about is exactly what it wraps up into. And what it would wrap up into is, one, I love to get involved. I love to be involved in the community, love to be involved with my family, love to be involved where I'm at. I was on the school board. I've coached numerous softball teams and kids stuff, volunteered for golf tournaments with the Legion, did a million things within the military where I had to volunteer and be on different boards and do different things. And what it comes down to is networking, getting to know people, showing that you're willing to do the hard work and follow through. I will say this, probably one thing that made me a good recruiter was the hard people to get in the guards, the people that had law violations or were overweight or did not meet the standards to get in the military. I would always take the time to work with them. And I was always given a bad time by the leadership saying, how the heck did you get that person in the guards? And to this day, I know I'm the only guy that got a guard bureau denial of a kid overturned so that he could get in the military.
Wow.
And it's because I knew his dad, and his dad was a retired colonel, and the colonel knew somebody in Washington, D.C., and we did it backwards. And of course, I got my butt chewed over that, but he did get the kid in, and the end result was he ended up being a good soldier. So,
You take care of people.
yeah, it's networking and being able to get done what you want to get done. What did Zig Ziglar say? You can get anything you want in life
Like-
by helping other people get what they want.
Exactly. That's on the bottom of my business card.
Yeah.
That's everywhere.
Yeah.
I love that.
So anybody out there looking to buy or sell a home and you want to work with just a fun guy that knows everybody, give John Mallinger a call. He is a rock star and he would love to help you out. And John, thanks again for being on the show. They're my brother, so
Appreciate it. Thanks, Joel.
thanks for joining us on episode 4 of
Closing time with Dave and Joelle, guest starring John Mallinger.
And we'll see you on episode 5. That'll just be Joelle and I. And yeah, other than that, you know me. Thanks and make it a great day.